All right, well, we're still here at the NRB, and right now I'm very excited to be joined by Ingrid Scott from the Charlotte Lazier Institute. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, the work that you do is so important, and it's very much in the forefront of the news today. There's a lot of things on both sides of the political aisle going around, and so being an expert, I wanted to ask you to share a little bit. I know there's some Supreme Court decisions coming up, but we know that Roe v. Wade was overturned. There was a lot of excitement about that, but now it's gone to the state level and different things out there, and the abortion pill is really at the forefront of kind of the discussions that are going on now. And so would you share with us a little bit about what our viewers should know about what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. And Charlotte Lozier is all about science and statistics on life issues. And I think it's become very clear the American public do not understand the issue of abortion. They've been gaslighted for 50 years.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of work to do. Regarding abortion drugs, the regimen that is approved by the FDA is two drugs. Mifepristone blocks progesterone, so it cuts off the hormonal support and kills the embryo or the fetus. And it's followed in about 24 or 48 hours by misoprostol that induces contractions. Essentially, it causes the woman to go into labor. It's a very difficult experience for a woman. She bleeds, she has a lot of pain. Many times she even sees her child. The abortion industry uses very flawed data to say this is safe. In fact, they tell women this is safer than Tylenol or penicillin. But the fact is, there are 4 times as many complications after abortion drugs than if a woman had a surgical abortion. And good studies tell us that 1 out of 20 women ends up in an emergency room within a month with a complication. About 6%, when it's used as the FDA recommends, will require surgery. Their body can't get rid of all that tissue. And so what has happened, of course, is that as the states are protecting unborn life, abortion advocates are flooding the states with these drugs in order to provide abortions and to get around our state laws. I'm in Texas. I practice as an obstetrician there, and I'm still seeing women that have been harmed by these drugs.
Wow, and I know some of the laws there in Texas have been controversial on the political scene. I'm based out of Ohio, and what we've been dealing with is a lot of out-of-state groups that are trying to affect state laws in our state, even though they're not even based out of there. And so what would you say, and this is a big voting year as well, what would you want viewers that may be seeing this to know about kind of the political side of this, and what are some issues that they need to be going out and making a difference on?
Well, in the wake of the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe, as we discussed, chemical abortion drugs became the method of choice for these abortion advocates. But the second thing that happened was that really there was a lot of fear mongering, and we've all seen this. We've seen, particularly out of Texas, lots of stories about how doctors can't provide quality medical care, how women are suffering. The reality is, I've looked at every state's law. Every state has an exception allowing an abortion if it's needed to save the life of the mother. So it's unnecessary to say that doctors can't provide quality care. 90% of obstetricians don't do elective abortions, and yet we all are willing to separate a mother and her child in the event that the pregnancy is posing a risk to her life. Fortunately, when that happens, usually the child can be saved as well. So it's rarely, if ever, needed to perform a direct abortion. So the American public need to understand that. Like you discussed, Ohio, the public were told many false things. They were told they needed that law in order to have care of miscarriages. Of course, that's not the case. They were told IVF and contraception were at risk, that maybe those would be taken away. And again, of course, that's not the case. So education is key. And as the states are looking at ballot initiatives, it's very important that we let them know really what's at stake here. Every one of these ballot initiatives really wants to take away any restriction on abortion, any gestational age, any reason. So if the abortion advocates had their way, there would be abortions allowed up into the time of birth, and they do occur. And they're not, 88% of them are not because of life of the mother or because of severe fetal health problems. They're for social, financial reasons, the same as earlier abortions. And in fact, many of those are women who've been coerced. I've seen them. 9 months is a long time for a woman to say no to a man who does not want her to have her child. So that's what the American public are voting for when they vote for these ballot measures. And they need to be aware of that because almost every American does not think that's appropriate.
Well, I'll say that I think Christians need to get out and vote, and not just in November, but a lot of these get on the ballot in the preliminary votes that are coming up over the next few months, depending on where you live. But tell us a little bit more about how our viewers can connect with your ministry and how they can find out more information about what's coming up maybe in their state.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called Lozier, L-O-Z-I-E-R, institute.org. And again, we have a lot of information there. They can educate themselves, they can educate their friends, and hopefully they'll educate their pastors too, because I think we see that there's a need for the church to speak about this issue, which at its root is a moral issue and a spiritual issue.
And before we go, I know that voting is important. I know that paying attention to what's happening is important, but we can do more than just showing up again on Election Day. What are some things that people can do to be involved in their communities, being involved in educating people about what's going on?
Yeah, well, like we said, education is key, but also supporting these women who find themselves in a crisis pregnancy. A study that we just published demonstrated that 60% of women who'd had a history of an abortion said they would have preferred to give birth if they'd only had more support. And so there are 3,000 pregnancy resource centers in our country. So no matter where your listeners are, there's a center in their city. And they walk alongside women, they give them emotional support, material support, sometimes financial support. Relationship support is key. Letting these couples, particularly a man who may be afraid of becoming a father, teaching him that he's strong enough and teaching a woman that she's strong enough to have a child. So supporting these centers financially and also as a volunteer. They really work on a shoestring budget and they do amazing work, but they need their community to rally around them and help them out.
Wow. Well, thank you for taking time to be with us today and for sharing with our viewers everything that's going on. And God bless you in the work you do.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Well, we're here at NRB, and I'm joined by Chase Capo with Bible Chat. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what Bible Chat is.
Absolutely. So the quick background, West Point grad, did the Airborne Ranger training thing, was an Army officer in the South Pacific for a while, and then went into some sales and trading. But the last year, we've partnered, co-founder, high school friend of mine, we've co-founded a Christian AI company, and we have a free application on the App Store that is, it's the smartest Bible robot you ever spoken with. And it's global. We've had over 1 million messages come in. And then we've developed a SaaS product for ministries and churches to use the same kind of technology.
Well, I think a lot of people may be concerned about AI. It's exciting to hear a Christian AI company. Now, I'll say when we started in Christian television, there was kind of this stigma of, entertainment, TV, film, there's a lot of negative influence there. And I think Christians missed out on being a part of it. And so I can see the same thing kind of happening with AI of, what does that really mean? Is this part of the book of Revelation? And so tell us a little bit how you are utilizing these new technologies.
Yeah, and we appreciate your example because it feels kind of odd being a young guy saying we should learn from history. So the people who have done it right are really motivating to us. On one hand, churches could have not used radio for 10 years because it was the spirit of the air, and many did. But we have realized to stay orthodox and biblically sound at scale, we needed to create our own large language models for Christians and different denominations. So we created Christian GPT and gave it away to the world for free on AIforthechurch.com. So anyone can use that model and build on top of it. Now we've also partnered with other churches and ministries that are Bible-based. Concordia Church is the largest Lutheran church in America. We developed Lutheran GPT for them. So their congregation and community can have Lutheran apologetics and can get asked any question under the sun, X-rated all the way to PG, and it will engage people with love and truth.
Wow. Now, what I've seen in our ministry, and we're not quite on the cutting edge of AI and all those types of things, but even just people calling in to a phone line, a prayer number that can be kind of anonymous, either people that don't have pastors to go to, or maybe they don't feel comfortable sharing with their pastor some of the situations they're in, or don't feel comfortable going to the people that they're friends with at church. Maybe they're going through a situation that's embarrassing that they don't want to talk about. So what have you seen as far as how people engage in that, and a little bit of that anonymity that maybe you don't feel as uncomfortable?
Yeah, thank you for asking. And we keep all conversations anonymous, even to us. So I know it's coming from Dallas, Texas. Man or woman, I don't know. But yeah, for maybe the first type of user, a believer, a Bible study leader, I was reading a conversation, I think it's a him, on the back end, who was planning a Bible study, asking what questions he can ask his group on 2 Peter 1, the list of Greek virtues there. And then in the middle of all that, he asks, is it okay to watch pornography if it's of my wife? And then keeps planning the Bible study. And it's a bit of conjecture. Just feels like that guy had that question longer than, just that 5-second thought, right? He maybe didn't feel comfortable asking the men's minister. But then you have, and we have thousands of conversations like, does God want me to stay married to my husband after adultery? And then what we've actually learned, because people are getting more personal faster with this tech than with most pastors, because it's anonymous, and a lot of other reasons, that if they have a real issue, for that lady, that conversation I'm thinking of is my husband one with a person who committed adultery? Or is he one with me, or both? But I mean, imagine that on an issue that conflicts with Christian worldview, like gender dysmorphia. How do you know you're born in the right body? If someone's really struggling with that question, they're gonna ask, how do you born in the wrong body? And I've seen it. Or does God create people in the wrong body? And that's why we've got to have really biblically sound answers to engage people with some love.
Wow. Now, tell me a little bit about what goes into programming or putting in this information to the AI, because I think a lot of times part of what concerns us is this someone that's been through pastoral training? You can input scripture, but how is it being interpreted by AI? How do these programs kind of get in place?
Yeah, maybe first a level is, what is AI? Generative AI, text-based, right? I like to explain it like it's a librarian that's memorized everything that's ever been digitized, and that's on the bookshelf now. And when you can ask it, why is the sky blue? Rather than giving you one answer from one textbook, it'll give you a probability-based answer word by word across all its textbooks. But again, if it conflicts with Christian worldview, it'll go secular, humanist, really woke, right? For us, what we'll do, we took 30,000 question and answer pairs, reviewed them all, got some help certainly from some theologians we respect, and used that as the initial data set. And then we add in other PDFs as articles of faith and doctrines to shape that librarian, and then we put the world on top of it. So it can say, yeah, hey, God doesn't specifically address why the sky is blue in the Bible, but it's because of the particles in the air and the light, right? For the Lutheran Church in the Missouri Synod, we took over 1,000 pieces of content, apologetic videos, PDFs, ministry content, and now have used that to inform as not just it's something on the shelf, but that's your bias as a librarian. And it will be right 1,000,000 out of 1,000,000 times.
Wow. Well, that's incredible. Tell our viewers that want to find out more, connect with Bible Chat, sign up. How do they do that?
Sure. So if you go to the App Store, our app is called Free Bible Chat, or you can just search it on your browser, biblechat.ai. And then if you want this for your ministry and you want to use your ministry content in conversations, then faithassistant.com is where you can find that.
Okay. Well, thank you for what you're doing. God bless you.
Sir, appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a good one.